Hey, this is Jerry from Bliz Studio, and we have a lot to cover in this particular demo. So what are we going to be doing? We are going to add a power up to our bounce game. Now, with the power up, we're going to create a little ball with a little particle effect. We're going to add a trigger event to it, so that way we know if our ball has hit that power up. And then what are we going to do with that power up? Well, we're going to add an extra 5 points to our score. Then we need to let the user know that we've added an extra 5 points. The way we're going to do that is to set up a UI that's going to have a +5 on it, and then it's going to animate up the screen. So we're actually going to animate our UI, and then we're also going to add a screen shake to it. So if you're ready to get started, let's go. Okay, so here we're back in Unity. So the first thing I'm going to do to set up a power up is to go ahead and just add an empty game object. And this is what's going to kind of control the power up showing up and turning off. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll just call this power up. And again, the whole purpose of this power up is just to add extra points to our score. So what I'm going to do is inside of that, I'm going to go ahead and add a 3D game object, and we'll just add a sphere. And that looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and change the size of this. Let's see, 0.5 maybe. Yeah, it's about the size of the ball, maybe just a touch smaller. So it makes it not as easy to get. And we can always change that by changing the size of the collider if we need to make it easier for the user. That's good. The next thing I want to do is to go ahead and set this as a trigger, because I know I'm going to use this. If the ball hits it, I want to trigger that point system to be updated. Cool, so we've got that set up. I'm going to go ahead and just make a material for it real quick. So we'll just go into our materials and create a new material. And I will just call this power up. And now I kind of need to determine what color I want this to be. So let's maybe go with kind of something on this lighter blue color. Yeah, and I think that looks okay. And then I'm also going to add some emission to this just so that it has some nice vibrant color to it. Let's go ahead and add a blue emission to that as well. And let's see. We need to add that to our sphere. So there we go. And the other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a particle effect. So I'm just going to add a particle system inside of my sphere. So I'm going to go to Effects, Particle System. And you can see that we've got that set up. I'm going to go ahead and just change the shape here. Instead of cone, I'm going to go ahead and just make that sphere. That way it is a sphere, so we just need to add that. And then I'm going to change the start lifetime. Let's change that way down. And again, I always like to use the random between two constants. And we'll change this to 0.1 to 0.4 maybe. And maybe those particles are moving just a little too fast. So let's go ahead and change those down just a little bit. So we're going to, again, do random between two constants on our speed. So let's go 0.3 to maybe 0.8. And that's not bad. The other thing I want to do is start size. Go ahead and change those down as well. So let's just go 0.3 to 0.5, something like that. And that's not too bad. I might go ahead and just change the lifetime down a little bit further, 0.05 and down to 0.2 maybe. So not lasting as long. Okay, I think that works. And the other thing I'm going to do is with the emission, I want there to be a lot more because there's not enough of those. So let's maybe make that 50. And even that's probably not enough. So let's maybe go 200. So it's kind of sparkly. So I kind of like that. Again, I think it's going, the particles are going out a little too far. So again, that's kind of coming down to both speed and lifetime. So it's just a matter of adjusting those down a little bit. So let's again go maybe 0.5 to maybe 0.2. on the start speed, start lifetime. That's the other thing I need to do is the size and shape of the radius here. So let's take that radius down. Yeah, I think that's working way better. And then I'm gonna change the start color. So let's go ahead and go random between two colors. And I'm gonna have the start color be, let's just go ahead and kind of stick with that blue color. And I'll leave white in there just because it just makes it a little more sparkly. And then the other thing that I'm gonna do is to also change the opacity. Change the opacity down so it's not as high on both those two colors. Let me bump that white up just a touch. And that's not too bad. So we'll go ahead and just go with that. Okay, so here is our sphere. We'll just call this the Power Up ball. Okay. And then let's go ahead and go back into our Power Up. So what we need to do is to add a system to this, an FSM, so that we can, one, determine if the ball has hit the Power Up. And then we need to say if it does, then we need to go ahead and update our score. So let's go ahead and add that FSM. So we're gonna add FSM. And again, I wanna name my FSM. We'll call this detecting Power Up hit, okay? All right, so here we're detecting our Power Up hit. Again, we haven't really done anything just yet, so let's go detect. And you know, the first thing I want to do is I want to set up where this Power Up is going to be positioned on my screen. So in my screen, I want it to be included within maybe this top area, but I want it to appear in a random position. So there's a couple different ways that we can do that, but I think maybe let's change this to Power Up placement. And the thing that I'm going to do is to create two variables. One is going to be a float for the X value, so where left and right is this going to reside, and then also one for the Y value, the Y placement, from where it's located up above. So within this kind of square region, that's where I want that ball to appear. But I want it to appear in a different spot every time, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and create two variables here, and they're both gonna be floats. So let's go and add a variable for the X position. So X position. Okay, so I've got that set. I'm not really setting it here. I'm just creating the variable. Then I'm also going to set a Y position. Yeah, okay, cool. So we've got that set up. Now what we can do is we can use a random float action. So let's do a random float. So here we've got random float. And what I'm going to do is every time we hit this start state, I want to change what those numbers are. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to look at our power up. So I'm just going to go ahead and just move this whole thing. So in the power up, I need to determine what's the value of the position Y and X that I want that to be in. So here in the X value, let's say it appears from a -2 to a +2. Okay, so I want it to be between those two numbers. Okay, so let me undo that real quick. So here I want this to be a -2 to a +2. And then I'm going to store that in one of those variables that I just created. So I've got X position and Y position. This is X, so we'll go ahead and do the X position. Okay, so we set a X position. So let's go and I want to copy and paste that. And then we need to set a Y position. So the Y position, let's go ahead and select and see exactly what our position should be. So we can go ahead and start at 0 for our Y. And then what's our max that we want it to be? Let's say maybe around there. So we'll go ahead and just say 5. So from 0 to 5, that's where our Y value needs to be. So let's go ahead and go from 0 to 5, and that is our Y position. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and add a transition, and we're gonna do a finished state, and now we need to go ahead and just set position. So what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna set the position of my power up based off of those random numbers. Okay, so let's set position. So let's go set position. So here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it based off of those random float variables. So I'm going to do an X position of X and a Y of Y position. And I'm not going to set every frame because I only want this to happen once. And then I want to go ahead and add a finished state because I only want to set that once. And then I'm going to do a random wait. So I'll go off to a new state and I'll call this one random wait. And let's go ahead and add a random wait variable, random wait action. And then the period of time that I want to wait is, I want it to be random. So I'll just keep it a short period of time for now. So let's just go from 3 to 6 seconds. And then once it's done doing that random wait, then we want to do a finished event. And then again, I'm just going to drag over back to my power up placement. So it's just going to kind of do this loop. So it's going to change its position, wait for a random period of time, go back and reset its position, wait a random period of time, so on and so forth. Cool. So this should actually make this make this power up placed within this kind of box area. So let's go ahead and give that a play. And there we go. We can see that it's changed position. So we can see our random wait here, and now it's changed position again. And it should, there we go. It's changed position again. So cool. That actually works. So the next thing we need to do is detect if our ball has hit our power up. Okay. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and just add a new FSM. So we'll call this ball hit. Okay, that's fine. And we'll change our FSM up here. So ball hit, and I probably need to change this from detecting power up hit. Let's change that to set position. And we'll call this one detecting power up hit. That works. Okay, cool. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and what we want to do is we want to make sure our ball has a collider, which it does, and is set to trigger, which it is. Okay, and then what we're going to do is to do a trigger event. So we want to listen to if that ball hits our trigger. Okay, so here we're going to go and we'll add a trigger event. So trigger event, and we're not using the owner. We're going to use the ball that's in the owner because that's the game object that has the trigger on it. So we're going to specify game object. So we'll choose power up ball and on trigger enter of what collider. Okay, so if we look at our ball, we have a ball that's a tag of ball, and that's what we're going to use to detect. Okay, so let's go back here to our ball hit trigger event. And if our ball, or if our power up has detected that it has touched the ball, then we're going to fire off an event. So here we need to go ahead and create a new event. And let's just go add to score. Okay, so I added an event. Now I need to go ahead and click that and go off to a new state. So let's go add to score. Cool, so we've got that. Now the thing that we want to do is to add to our score. Now we have our score set up as a global variable. So if we look at our Playmaker editor windows, global variables, you can see that I've got score right here, which is an int value. So that's a whole number. And then I need to determine exactly how much I want to add. So if I've hit that ball, let's just say we add 5 more points. So here we want to go int and then add. So int add. And then we need to say, hey, what variable is it that we want to add to? Well, we've got a global variable of score. So there we go, we've got that. And then what's the score that we want to add? We want to add 5 more points. Okay, and I'm not going to choose every frame. And then once that's done adding those 5 points, then I need to go ahead and go back to ball hit. So let's go and add a transition of finished. And we're going to go back to our ball hit. Okay, so this FSM is specifically for just detecting if our ball has hit the power up. If it has, we're going to add 5 points. Okay, so let's give that a test real quick. So hopefully this should just drop down and add 5 points up here. Oh, I forgot we've got that random position on there. Let me just turn that FSM off so we can just test. Give that a try real quick. Boom, there we go. We see that we've added extra score. Okay, so we know that that works. So now that we need to kind of consider what's going to happen, right? If the ball does hit that, I want to maybe make that ball disappear. So I'm not going to delete that game object. I think what I want to do is just deactivate it. Okay, so if after we've added the score, let's go ahead and turn that game object off. So let's go ahead and do an activate game object. Here we go. And what I'm going to do is to choose to turn off the power up. Okay, so let's go and specify the game object. We're going to use our power up ball. And what we want to do is uncheck activate, so that's going to turn it off. Okay, so let's give that a test real quick. So once it hits, it should turn the ball off. Boom, there we go. Exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so we have that all working. So now the next thing that we need to do is to, if the ball gets hit and we turn it off, at some point we want to maybe turn it back on. And that we can set that up or use the set position, this kind of random event to do that. Okay, so first we want to set position here, and then we can also activate our power up ball. Okay, so let's go and make sure that that is active. So let's go ahead and activate game object. And then again, what game object is it that we want to activate? We want to activate this power up ball. Okay, so we want to activate it here. And then we're going to do a random wait. And then what we want to do is to, once it's done waiting, we're going to go back up to our power up placement. Now, the thing is, like, do we always want this ball to be up there? Probably not. So maybe it's set up so that we deactivate it when it hits our power up placement. So we set the position here, we activate that game object, then it randomly waits for whatever that period of time is, and then it gets turned off, and then we go back to reset again. And that should work. So let's go ahead and just copy this activate game object, and go back in here. Let's have that be active, and let's give this a test real quick. Boom. And I need to be able to control my controller with my, let's turn off the touch move for now. Let's give that a test again. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, so close. Boom, boom. There we go, we hit it. Yeah. Okay, so that works. Now the next thing we need to do is to make this more dynamic. Okay, so let's do this. What I want to do is to first add some screen shake. So we've got screen shake that we are using in our detection manager here. So again, we've got our screen shake set up with this shake small, medium, and large. So let's go ahead and add a large screen shake. And in the detection manager, I've got it set up, send event by name, screen shake medium. Let's just copy that real quick, and we'll go over to our power up ball, and let's see, in the detection power up, here where we're adding to our score, let's go ahead and add a screen shake event too. So we'll go screen shake LRG, okay? And so that way it'll do a screen shake. So that'll work. And then let's go ahead and just add a UI real quick. I'm gonna add a new UI canvas. We'll call this Powerup. And then what I want to do is to maybe just add some text onto the screen. And let's go ahead and go to UI and Text Mesh Pro. And we can see the text here. What I'm gonna do is add +5. Yeah, I think that works. We'll just have that text be +5. Okay, so let's just go ahead and make it bold. And then we'll have this be a lot bigger. So let's go, let's make it 100. Yeah, maybe even bigger than that. Let's go 150, maybe too big. Let's go 125. Yeah, that works. Now let's go ahead and change that color to kind of be more similar to the Powerup number. Okay, so I've got that, and I'm gonna just change the position of it real quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and just double click on that text real quick so we can get to where it's at, and then we'll just move that up on the screen. Cool. All right, so I need to animate this, and we haven't really done any UI animation. So what I wanna do is I wanna go and open up my animator window, or animation window, and I'm gonna pop that down here with my Playmaker window, and again, with the Powerup selected, I'm gonna go ahead and create an animation. And we'll call this, we'll stick that in our animation window, or animation folder, and I'll call this Powerup. Cool. All right, and then what is it we're gonna animate? Well, we're gonna animate that 5 on there, and we'll just maybe have it so where it just appears, and then it animates kind of up, like it's going to the score. Okay, so what we're gonna do is select that text, and let's change our sample rate down to 12. That's 12 frames a second. And then what I'm gonna do is to, I wanna move this up. So I'm gonna hit record. So this is the way we're gonna animate our UI. And I'm just gonna start in this position, and then like so many frames. Let's maybe a second. We can always cut that down later. I'm just gonna move this up. And then I'm gonna go over here to the value, and you see we've got a keyframe added. So we have a start keyframe and an end keyframe. So right, it's gonna animate up. And then on the end keyframe, we're gonna take that vertex color and we'll just make it transparent. Okay? So that's gonna be the effect. So that's what we're gonna add. Okay, so we've got that set up. Now we need to trigger this event. And what I'm gonna do is just with this UI turned off, so let's go ahead and unrecord. So I'm gonna have this UI turned off. Then we need to go back to our Powerup, and if we activate our game object, let's go ahead and activate that Powerup UI as well. So what we're gonna do is, I'll just go ahead and copy this, paste that back down, and we're gonna specify the Powerup UI is we're gonna turn that on. So we're gonna activate that. Then we need to wait for that 1 second before we can turn, or we're gonna turn it back off. Okay, so here we're gonna go off to a new state, and we wanna add a wait state. So wait, and here we wanna go and add in wait. We don't wanna do a random wait, we wanna do a very specific wait. So we'll just wait 1 second, and then when that's done, we're gonna go to finished, add that transition. Here we're going to turn our UI back off, add another transition of finished. So let's activate. So here's where we're activating our game UI. So let's copy and paste that. And then here we want to turn it off. So turn off UI. Cool. All right, so we're detecting if the ball hits the Powerup. We're going, adding to the score, activating, deactivating the ball, activating the UI. Then we're waiting for 1 second. then we're going in back and turning the UI off. Okay, and we want to make sure that's off there. Okay, then we're going back and just waiting for it to be hit again. So let's give that a test real quick to see what happens. Boom! Oh, boom. So close. Boom! 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 Yeah, there we go.
Game over.
That worked. Awesome. So I think we covered enough on this particular demo. And there you go. Whoa! We covered a ton in this tutorial. We added a power up to our game. We added some score based off of that. We created a UI that we actually animated to allow the user to know that we've actually added that extra score. And again, please share these tutorials. And if you don't mind, hit like, subscribe, and that little bell icon down there so you know when the next tutorial is available. Until next time, peace.